How would you describe the attitude of bears in this area?
Bears, for the most part, are going to be a wild animal that live in their natural habitat. On the rare occasion, generally due to human conflict, a bear will come outside of its natural habitat and be in neighborhoods, restaurants, places that it's frequenting to get food. But I think the general consensus is bears are going to be in the wild. They're going to live and do the things that a normal bear would do, living off the land. But in high density areas of bears, which White Mountain is, they often do come into rural areas to meet their food desires, and that's generally caused by people frequenting feeding bears and bears frequenting dumpsters. So I think if we can avoid those things, the general attitude of bears will be a wild animal, and they're going to leave when they see humans. They're going to go the other way. But in the rare occasion that a bear becomes habituated to food, things put out by humans, then unfortunately they're going to be less afraid of humans.
And if someone meets a bear in the woods, what should they do?
We try and encourage people to do is talk in a calm voice, clap your hands, back away from the bear, maintain eye contact with the bear so he doesn't perceive you as a threat, but he also doesn't perceive you as being as weak.
As a cub, is there any difference?
Same thing with encountering a sow that may have cubs. You want to act in the same way. Make sure you're not backing away in an area that is going to put you between the sow and the cubs, and always leave them space away for them to get out, because that's going to be their natural inclination is to leave the area.
Also with that, there's some things that you can do as preparing to go out into the woods. A simple bear bell on your pack or on your dog when you're taking a walk, and keeping your dog on a leash will enable you to avoid those bear-human conflicts.
And do you know of any bear attacks in this area? And if so, how many, when, and where?
The last person in New Hampshire to be killed by a black bear was in 1784.
And the most recent documented bear-human altercation would have happened in the Warren area. No one was seriously injured. Unfortunately, the person or group started feeding the bears and became much too friendly. And one day when they were feeding the bear cuffed the human. No one was seriously hurt, but that was the last documented issue, and it happened in 2004.
And what is the most common mistake that you've seen or heard of people making around bears?
In Lincoln, the most common thing that we see is campers leaving food inside their tents, inside soft-shelled vehicles, or just in their camping area. They don't clean up after they're done cooking, and that draws the bears in once they go to sleep, and it creates encounters with humans.
The other issue is simply not securing dumpsters, putting trash out before trash day, and not having taken the appropriate measures with really stinky garbage, double bagging it, using ammonia, cleaning out your trash cans. Those things will bring in bears, especially in an area where we abut right up to some woodlands and great bear habitat. Then they don't have to go very far to be in someone's backyard where they have a grill on. Some of the simple things that you can do is get a bear-proof dumpster or a bear-proof trash receptacle, and you can also clean your grill, let it burn off all the greases and such when you're cooking.
And what should somebody do should a bear be in the road?
I would slow down, leave it some space, and just try to continue on. You want to be cautious because other people driving on the roadway, especially on the highway, may not understand why you're slowing down, so you could put on your hazard lights to give people an indication that you may drive differently than what you would to give that bear space. You don't want to cause an accident.
And if you meet a bear in the woods and it seems aggressive, what should you do?
The best thing to do is to just stand your ground, make eye contact, and then once eye contact is made, just speak in a calm voice and back away slowly. You can clap your hands and make noise as well. Bears in the wild are a top predator. They may decide to bluff charge you, chomp their teeth, stomp the ground, those are ways of the bear trying to get you to back down. By you maintaining your posture and eye contact, you're showing the bear that you're an equal and not lesser. Those are definitely some of the best ways to handle it, but always maintain eye contact and back away slowly.
And is there any equipment that you would advise people to have with them if they're in bear country, or that they should have when encountering a bear?
I think like we discussed earlier, you can always put a bear bell on your dog or on your packs. If you have, if you're law enforcement and you have bear spray, that's what we like to carry as an opportunity to try and condition the bears to stay out of the areas where they're not supposed to be.
Noise making equipment is going to be one of the best things to combat any kind of bear issues. Simply, if a bear comes in your backyard, you can bang pots and pans. If you're out in the wild, you can clap your hands or snap your hiking poles back together, just clicking them. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but just making noise. Oftentimes, when a bear is startled, that's when something can happen, or a bear is coming in your backyard to get that food that you left out or the trash that you failed to secure. So if you avoid those things and you're walking through the woods and you have your bear bell on and the bear's not startled, it's going to walk away. You'll never even hear it generally. They're very quiet, and they'll go on their way and you'll go down the trail. In the case of a habituated bear that's gone into dumpsters and frequents restaurants and parking areas and so on and so forth, the best thing to do is just maintain a good distance away. You don't want to come too close to these animals. They are wild and they are unpredictable. And the best thing to do to discourage a bear is to just make noise and keep a good distance away so you can safely pass.
What is more common in the White Mountains, to encounter bears or moose?
I think that really depends on where you are in the White Mountains. Certainly, there's places where you can go and you could see a high population density of moose in a cut that's 3 to 5 years old, a clear cut that has just been logged 3 to 5 years ago. It allows ample browsing opportunities for moose to feed. So if you were to frequent an area like that, you'd likely see a moose. But for bears, the population's pretty good in the White Mountains.
In this area, in Lincoln, we get more bear calls just because of the nature of the campers in the area. So people call more often about that than a moose being near the roadway.
In the state, 5,500 bears are estimated. That's the estimated population statewide. In the White Mountains area, it's just under 1 bear per square mile statistically, and that's based on the latest harvest history in bear sightings.
And what are your main concerns involving bear safety?
Our biggest concern is we have a lot of people that come to visit in the area, so their knowledge of bears isn't necessarily where it should be. They see them, they get excited, they want to get a picture. So just making sure that people know it is a wild animal and to keep your distance and be cautious. Let the bear have its area, and then if the bear is entering into dumpsters or into homes, they need to call us so that we can come assist in making sure that that bear is removed from the area safely.
People coming up to the White Mountains to recreate is great for the local economy. It's in New Hampshire, it's wonderful. We welcome it, but educating the public is extremely important. People that are camping should realize that they shouldn't be bringing food into their tents. They should be having a campsite about 100 yards away from wherever they're eating. Put their food about 10 feet up in the air, not close to anything where a bear would be able to get up there. If we can together work towards those goals as far as bear safety goes, I don't foresee any major issues as far as attacks or anything like that. It's just getting the human population to do what they need to do on their end so we can reduce the human conflicts.
How do the bears in the ring differ from the ones in the wild?
Well, the bears in the ring differ from the ones in the wild because we've handled them so much. They are used to humans at a very close proximity, and they expect payment by way of food to do the things that they are asked to do. Their behaviors are very much the same in basic aspects. They react the same way as a wild one would if they're startled or injured or angry or anything like that, but their basic demeanor overall is quite a bit different from those in the woods. Out there you have no idea what you are encountering, and I and my sister both know inherently what we're getting ready to do because we've worked with these creatures so much. So it's not like jumping in blind. When you meet one in the woods, you just don't know what it is that you're getting into. There are crazy bears out there just like there are crazy people, and you just don't know which one of them you're going to encounter.
How much longer do they live from the bears in the wild?
Well, personally, I cannot give you a date by which they are born or which they die in the woods because, one, I'm not a biologist or any of those things. The figures that we give during our show come from the Fish and Game Department, and we try to yearly ask them what they have gathered for data and what the current life expectancy is. And as of this year, they claim that there were 5,300 bears in the state of New Hampshire, and that the average life expectancy out there is between 4 to 6 years. Now, that's an average, and just like with the estimated population, the estimated age, the only way they can actually determine the length of the lifespan of a bear is by killing one. During hunting season, when they get one, they remove one of the teeth and they count the rings inside of it just like they would a tree. And we do not do that. We keep records for the bears that we have here. So we know when they were born, and we also know how long they live because they're with us for so many years. And we keep accurate records on that. So I can tell you without any hesitation that the bears that are here at Clark's Trading Post are very long-lived compared to the ones in the wild. There's no way a wild bear is going to live as long as they do here.
And what is the average life expectancy for the bears in the ring?
The bears in the ring, well, the oldest one we ever had here that grew up from a cub to old age, the oldest one ever, 38 years, 7 months. In recent years, like Ursula, she passed away at 27. Moxie, who had been in the ring a little when she was younger, 29. They live a very long time. So I would say 25, almost 30 years.
Right. Now the bears in the ring, what do they eat?
Multiple things. Their diet consists mostly of very high quality fruit and vegetables. They receive dog chow for protein. The thing about what we do in the ring is we have to pay them with money, or basically food that is outside the normal source that they would get anyway. My father and my uncle used to say it, you cannot do the things that we do in the ring by paying them with apples or grapes or heads of lettuce that they are already going to receive in their bowl of food. You need to use a higher quality or more tasty object. So food that we use in the ring for our training purposes are things like almonds, peanuts, raisins, dried fruit of multiple types. I mean, I've used dried peaches, dried mangoes, pineapple, cherries, blueberries. We also use, on occasion, we call it like a $50 bill would be a vanilla bullseye, and also we use ice cream because it's a very tempting thing for them. It's tasty.
How often do tourists think the wild bears outside the park are yours ones that have escaped?
We hear about that quite often. You know, I honestly think a lot of times that it's a joke, that they're, just passing a conversation, but I suppose sometimes I've heard rumors from different people around town at restaurants and things that deal with the public in a different manner that, we saw a bear last night and this tourist thought it was one of ours that had escaped, and one of the local ladies, Donna Garfield, always tells a story that one lady said that one of the bears must have escaped from Clark's, or they let him out at night and they go out and do the thing and then they come back in the morning. That was her joke. I don't know how often the tourists that are passing through or non-workers here see bears, probably quite often at campgrounds and things, but I don't know if they make the correlation all the time. Some of them probably do.
All right, how many bears have grown up working in the ring?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I would have to say, let's see, probably, back to the days of Ebony and Midnight. I don't know, there's got to be 10 to 15 of them probably through the years, maybe more. See, I haven't been at this since the inception. The bear show's been going for 66 years and I'm only 46. So I missed out on quite a few years of the show because I just wasn't even born. So there have been many.
Like being in captivity, can that affect the bear's behavior?
Yes, it can. If they are left to very small spaces for extended periods of time, smaller than what we have here, I would imagine it would affect them greatly. And of course it depends on the care that they're given by their masters. And certainly the rules of caring for these creatures varies. Well, there's a standard by which wildlife is supposed to be kept, and some of the most stringent ones in the United States, I believe, were down in Florida, and for keeping a black bear in captivity, they only have to make normal postural movements. In other words, they can stand up and they need to be able to turn around on all fours. They need a small elevated sleeping platform and a source of clean water. So if you take that in its basic elements, you're talking about a small enclosure that could be no more than, say, 8 by 10 feet by maybe 7 feet tall. And that's a very small endeavor. So if you put something like that, an animal of any size, and something that small, it would certainly affect them. Our bears, of course, learn things in captivity that the ones in the wild don't. They see us coming, they get excited for us to be coming near them, they're always looking for the money, they want to know what we're doing and things like that. So certainly, it does affect them.
How would you describe the attitude of bears in this area?
Well, I've seen many living here and growing up here, both wild and ones that we care for. How would I describe them in the wild? Well, normal. They go from house to house looking for food. Some of the bolder ones will come down into the town and collect trash off of porches and wreck bird feeders and get into dumpsters and find the grease traps and things that are left out after restaurants get cleaned and things like that. The other ones that I've seen off into the woods act normally. They tend to try and avoid humanity, most of them. And when they see you coming, oftentimes they try to avoid you and they move off into the brush. But some of them are more curious than others, so they might get closer. I do not know of any that have been crazy or anything like that. I've never heard one going wild and wrecking the town or chasing people down to try and bite them and eat them. That never has been anything I've ever heard of here.
If someone meets a bear in the woods, what should they do, and if it has a cub?
Well, it's a very difficult decision to make as to what you do. What I would do versus the normal human being might be two different things. But typically I tell people to enjoy the moment because you've just seen something very special, but to avoid contact and conflict with this creature as much as possible. You want to make yourself look larger than you are, so you can unzip your jacket wave your arms around, yell a lot, if you've got a whistle or whatever. If it has a cub, chances are the cub is going to be making noise or driven up a tree by the mother, or if you have a chance encounter with the cub, you're going to want to back out of the area slowly, cautiously. Running is not a wise choice. I believe that there is a predator-prey response, and even though black bears are omnivores, when even like a small dog or a cat, when it sees something moves very quickly, they tend to chase after it because it's in their nature to do so. So you don't want to run away.
Do you know of any bear attacks in the area? If so, how many, when, and where?
Let's see. Bear attacks in the area. I seem to recall, I want to say 15, 20 years ago, maybe, there was a bear in this area, a small one, that had been tagged numerous times by Fish and Game to keep an eye on it, probably coming into some of the different campgrounds, especially towards the north end here up near the Notch. But anyway, the story goes that during the summer of that year, father and son were up in Franconia Notch at one of the, maybe the basin or something, and this particular bear with the tags in its ears came out, so they decided that these people wanted to either feed it or touch it or get close to it, and the bear didn't appreciate the attention and scratched one of them. And this was reported to Fish and Game, and then the animal was destroyed because the humans decided that they were going to go beyond any kind of logical thinking to go up to an animal that they have no idea about and touch it. Once again, avoid conflict with these animals as much as possible. You don't want to get near them. They are a very powerful and dangerous animal. People just don't understand that. They see this thing and they think, oh boy, let's go touch it, or let's go get close to the moose and have our picture taken. Well, trouble. That's all I can say.
Now, in your opinion, what is more common, encountering a bear or a moose?
Once again, it's the luck of the draw. I don't know. I've seen plenty of both. And these things don't surprise me. What does surprise me is when I saw an eagle fly over the town earlier this summer. That surprised me. Seeing a bear or a moose doesn't surprise me, so I guess they're fairly common. So 50-50. Which one's more dangerous? They're both very dangerous, so stay away from them.
All right, and the last question. About how many bears are there in the wild?
Well, according to the figures that the Fish and Game release, they say 5,300 for the state of New Hampshire. It used to be around 5,000 or so. And this is the way you determine a bear, the population. They figured that each bear needs about a square mile to survive. So they take the land mass, or X amount of miles per animal. They take that, divide that number into the land mass of the state, and then they come up with a number. Now, there's no one out there counting each and every one of these bears. They don't all line up in a nice long line, and you issue them their green cards and so on. And no one's checking them at the Canadian border either. They come and go as they please. So, how many are out there? Anybody's guess.
All right, and that's the last of the questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem.